Everyone, and welcome back. Today, I'm joined with Blaine Monaghan, President and CEO of Pacific Ridge Exploration. The stock trades on the TSX Venture under the symbol PEX and on the OTCQB as PEXZF. Pacific Ridge has been making waves in British Columbia's copper and gold exploration scene. Copper is definitely taking a lot of attention right now with a new partnership with the Fiore Group, which is a strong technical advisory team, and some of the best copper intercepts we've seen this year have come from this company. So just before we begin, I just want to make a note that this interview is purely informational and educational. I was not compensated for this interview. I just think it's a great company. I got to reconnect with the CEO at a presentation the other week, and I just wanted to share the story with investors. So Blaine, it's so great to have you today, and thank you for joining me.
Great. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Now, I just want to, my favorite question to ask because we all invest in people first, company second, price third, or maybe price then company. But can you just tell me a little bit about your background and, why you are the right person to lead this company into a successful future?
Yes, well, it's hard to believe I've been in the industry now for 25 years. I got my start in 2001, actually, with a company called Wheat River Minerals, which was a Frank Juster deal. So it's kind of interesting that I've come full circle in 25 years with
Oh,
Frank
wow.
Juster, with Wheat River Minerals, and now Fiore Group. I've always been involved in exploration companies, and I've been very lucky to, in that time span, work for five companies that have been subject to M&A, a number of that have been mentioned or been a part of the TSX Venture 50. I've been very lucky to have a lot of success, and really that's largely what you're talking about. It's projects and people, and I think I have a knack for identifying projects and people, and that's why I signed on with Pacific Ridge in 2021. I thought that the Kliyul, where we just reported a resource, had fantastic discovery opportunity and had all the hallmarks of a project that might ultimately attract M&A.
That's incredible. It's nice to hear people that have been a part of companies for a long time, and it's not just a recent thing. You've been doing this since 2021. And to combine your successful career path and then partnering with the Fiore Group, which obviously has a highly reputable presence in the mining space, what can you say? How does that partnership really align with making this company grow into, hopefully one day either it's going to be a major takeout or producing copper stage? What does that partnership really mean for this company?
Yeah, it means a lot for us. I mean, we partnered with the Fiore Group in June. They helped inject $3 million into the company, and I think all of your viewers will recognize that really up until June this year, we were in the depths of a bear market. It was just as bad as it ever been, and I believe that bear market started in 2011. So it had been a long, painful slog. But at Pacific Ridge, we did a lot of good work, and we did enough work where we could outline that resource and attracted also some senior partners along the way. But at that point in time, we were very much on our knees, and the Fiore Group was familiar with our projects, familiar with our team, and they recognized the value at that time and injected that $3 million. And the most important thing, I think, for investors looking at the Fiore Group is it's validation. I mean, they are one of the strongest mining houses around. So I think a lot of investors can take confidence that, well, listen, if this group was willing to get behind us, invest their own money, I think that eliminates a lot of risk. And I think we've demonstrated that since June by publishing that resource, drilling RDP, and returning some of the best copper gold intervals to date. And looking forward now to publishing a few more results from Kliyul. And further, I think the Fiore Group, what they're looking for, or what they also thought was attractive with Pacific Ridge, was a very good foundation to continue to grow. So we have a great portfolio of assets, but I think they'd like to see us continue to build on that to become BC's leading copper exploration company. So yes, we have some great assets, but we look to continue to get stronger.
It's definitely true when you partner with a group like the Fiore Group, they're obviously doing a lot of their own research, which you can assume would eliminate some of the risk for investors who obviously need to do their own due diligence, but it's definitely a massive stamp of approval. And so you've also brought, before we get into Kayul, some of the results are incredible. I just want to talk a little bit about the fact that you brought on Rob McLeod and Ryan Weymark as strategic advisors. Like, how are they influencing the company? I know they have a tremendous track record of working with great companies. I'm just curious, like, what are they bringing to the table when it comes to technical input, project generation, or M&A strategy?
Yeah, part of our deal with the Fiore Group was that they could appoint two directors. So we've appointed two directors, and that's Stacey Jones, who's now with Selkirk. She's the VP Exploration of Selkirk Copper, who are looking to restart the Minto mine. You have Josh Kearse, who's the CFO of Nations Royalty and is also going to be the CFO of Selkirk Copper, and also appointing these strategic advisors, Rob McLeod and Brian Weymark. So at the moment, I'd say their input is relatively limited. I think the most important thing when we first started was they're overseeing and making sure that we're doing everything right. And so far, it's been a light touch because I think we are doing everything right. But we're going to be leaning on them a lot more heavily over the months ahead as we continue to look for new opportunities. And that's where we're really going to get the help from Rob and Ryan. One of the other advantages, obviously, with the Fiore Group is deal flow. So they're always looking at opportunities, and they will be looking at opportunities for us again to help make us an even bigger, stronger company. And that's where I expect a lot of help will be. That's where they're really going to shine.
Fantastic. And I know I want to talk about this Kliyul project that you have. I mean, your projects are all located in British Columbia. And this one specifically, the big milestone this year with your initial resource at the Kliyul Main Zone was showing over 334 million tons at 0.33% copper equivalent. So what does this resource really tell investors about the scale and potential of this project, and how confident are you that it can continue to grow from that size?
I think the most important thing with this is that it puts us amongst a very select group of BC copper exploration development companies in BC. There aren't many companies out there that have a resource of this size in BC that remains open. So we've spent about $15 million at Kliyul, and we've outlined that resource, and it remains open. And I think it's important to remember that this is just one zone,
Right.
right? There are a number of other targets out there at Kliyul. So what I'd like to see us do moving forward, yes, we can continue to do infill drilling and resource expansion drilling like we did this year, and we're still waiting for the results. But there are five other targets out there. And I think it's important that in the future and in future drilling, we look to expend some more resources on that. We've almost been exclusively focused on the Kliyul Main Zone. But porphyries do tend to occur in clusters, and I'm sure there's another deposit out there. And I think that will be the way forward to really materially increase tonnage and potentially grade. I think Kliyul is very close to where it needs to be. And I think that future drilling focused on new targets and new discoveries will get us there.
Yeah, and so you mentioned you focus most of your energy, obviously, if not all of your energy, on this one zone. Where do you see the most immediate opportunity to add tons or grade in the next year?
Yeah, I think that remains to be seen. Obviously, there's lots of shots at it. So when we think about the Kliyul Main Zone, almost all of the resources have been spent on the Kliyul Main Zone. There's another target called Ginger where we've drilled one hole. Another target called Ginger South where we've drilled one hole. Parish Hill, we've drilled one hole. There's Back Ridge and M39, which we've never drilled. But I think the most intriguing target for us now is we haven't really given it a name, so I'll just call it the Clip target at present because there is a historical occurrence called the Clip, and it's located just a little bit to the north of the Kliyul Main Zone. Last year, we didn't drill Kliyul. We flew an airborne Z-Temp survey, and that identified a very similar magnetic signature to the Kliyul Main Zone to the north. So it's our thoughts that perhaps the Kliyul Main Zone is just one part of a much larger system to the north. So that's a very intriguing target that has never been tested, previously unrecognized. That absolutely has to be drilled. And if you have success, that would materially change the game.
And when it comes to like mining in British Columbia, I mean, most investors will never actually see the project site, or, I mean, for any company for that matter. I think one thing you think about too is how difficult is it actually to get to these projects, and how much does that increase the cost of actually drilling on the site? Can you tell me a little bit about, the access points to this property and how that might impact or positively, negatively the economics of developing, these projects here in BC?
Yeah, that's a very important consideration. I mean, there are so many different considerations, but that is a really important one, infrastructure. So we're pretty lucky when you think about Kliyul. We're located in the Quesnel Terrane at the northern part of it, and the last producing mine in that part of the Quesnel Terrane was the Chemist. So we're just about 50 kilometers south of Kema. So there was road and power constructed for that mine, and we're only about 8 kilometers off that. So right now, although Kliyul and RDP are both helicopter accessible, they're located in very close proximity to road and power. So the one limiting factor for us now is really just seasonality, more so about weather. So we typically get in there in June and get out of there, in September. But because we are so close to that road with continued success, it wouldn't be necessarily that problematic to drive in an exploration road. And obviously, with enough success, it wouldn't be that hard to fully connect to that road. And there is a template in place. I mean, chemists, they were producing concentrate on site and then just trucking it down that Omanika mining road to Mackenzie, where there's a railhead, and just putting it on rail and then to port. So it's pretty good. For northern BC, it's pretty good.
That's good. And you've been to the site, obviously?
Yes.
Yeah.
A number of times. Yeah,
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite gorgeous up there.
I bet.
And it's interesting as well. Like that whole part of the Quesnel terrain, the northern part, hasn't seen as much exploration, but it's quickly emerging as probably one of the hotter exploration districts around. To the southern part of the Toodoggone, we've had a couple new discoveries up there this year, and I believe that chemists will probably restart within the next 5 to 10 years. They've re-envisioned what was called the Chemis Underground, and now they're looking at it from an open pit perspective, and I think the numbers look pretty good. I wouldn't, and they already have all the infrastructure in place. It's on care and maintenance, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see a restarted Chemis.
Very cool. Now, I really want to get into one of what was potentially one of the strongest intervals in BC reported this year. RDP, your latest hole, RDP 25011, hit 112 meters of 1.35% copper equivalent. Can we talk about that? What did those results reveal about that day target and the broader potential at RDP?
Yeah, RDP, while Kliyul underpins evaluation, it's a significant resource, and ultimately, I think it provides us with a lot of leverage to demonstrate just how undervalued we are, because we can compare it to the resource of some other peers. RDP is much earlier stage. It's a fantastic discovery opportunity. And earlier, when I was talking about the Toodoggone emerging as a really hot exploration district, it's based on the fact that Weymark came up with a brand new discovery there at their Joy project and the Aurora discovery. And they basically came up with, I think it was about 108 meters of about a 2.6 copper equivalent. And their stock quintupled on that. And that took place in January of this year. And that's what led us to say, well, listen, RDP historically has returned similar with similar grades. And if Weymark is going to receive such an improvement in share price, we should go back to RDP and follow up on a hole that Antofagasta drilled in 2022. So yeah, we were very pleased to get back there. We followed up on that hole. We returned that interval you talked about. But we also confirmed our thesis that this was a steeply dipping tabular body, and we also discovered a new zone of porphyry copper gold mineralization. So not a huge exploration program. It was about 5 holes in 2,100 meters, but very successful. I mean, it's the best interval we've returned to date at RDP, and it will probably be amongst the top 10 intercepts in BC this year for a porphyry copper gold interval. So yeah, very pleased with that. And we look forward to getting back, obviously.
Absolutely, yeah. And you've mentioned you obviously have multiple advancing projects, Kliyul, RDP, Chuchi, Onjo, Redton. How do you decide where to focus capital next year? And do you see potential for joint ventures or partnerships in any of them?
Yeah, I would say right now, obviously, because of the resource that exists at Kliyul, and there's a number of pathways to increase the size of that resource, whether by continuing to focus on the Kliyul Main Zone or looking to make new discoveries. That is something we're absolutely focused on. And then, of course, you have RDP, which is a brand new discovery, and that's returning some of the best copper gold porphyry intervals in BC. So those are obviously our top two. We will remain focused on those. We own them 100%. The claims are in good standing for a decade. Then when you think about Redton, Onjo, Chuchi, Chuchi is more advanced stage. We did drill it last year. I wouldn't say that the drill results weren't a success, but the markets weren't excited by it. It's the only project we don't own 100%. We optioned that from Centerra. It's unlikely we will continue to devote resources to that project. And then Redton and Onjo, which we do own 100%, the earlier stage, we'll do the minimum amount of work to keep the claims in good standing, but don't have any plans to drill them at the present time. We'll stay focused on RDP and Kliyul. And if anybody wants to come along and potentially joint venture some of those other projects, we would entertain that absolutely.
And I wanted to go back to is what is the future of this company? As a Fiore, is Fiore backing it? Are you expecting to be a long-term builder? Are you wanting to position the portfolio for eventual acquisition by a mid-tier? What is kind of the plan and future that you foresee for this company?
All of the above.
All of
So I think we've got a great portfolio, a very solid base on which we can continue to grow. So I think you will see us do that, whether at the project level or perhaps even the corporate level. But with the end goal of basically outlining something big enough and economic enough or exciting new discovery that's going to attract M&A. I mean, that's ultimately the end point. I think we're very close to that with what we have. We talk to the seniors all the time, whether it's about Kliyul or RDP. We are on other companies' radar screens. We're always keeping them up to date, and I just hope it's a matter of time that we deliver something or they get to some decision-making process corporately that it's time for someone to do something.
And something that maybe the everyday, average investor might forget to consider is what are your relationships with the local First Nations and how does that
Mm.
impacting the projects?
Yeah, that's another really important consideration, just like infrastructure and dozens and dozens of other things. But it's one of the three most important things. I always think if you're going to have success in BC as an exploration company, it's access to capital, it's the science, it's the geology, and it's First Nations. You need all three to be successful. So we spend a lot of time developing those relationships. As a matter of fact, I'll be in Europe in the next couple of weeks, attending a number of conferences, and then when I'm back, I'll be heading up to Prince George to meet with some of the nations. So we are in constant contact. The most important piece of advice I ever heard was no surprises. So we ensure that whatever our plans are or whatever we're thinking about is communicated well in advance. So there are no surprises. And I would characterize our relationships as very good.
That's fantastic. And wrapping up this interview, I just want to know what are some of the key catalysts investors should be watching for going into the next 12 months, whether it's drilling, updates, or corporate milestones?
Well, it's been very busy since June. Partnering with the Fiore Group, we've raised over $7.5 million in capital. We drilled RDP and returned some of the best intervals in BC this year. We're awaiting now result, and pardon me, and we also reported our resource for Kliyul, which was a really important milestone. We're awaiting results now from the two holes we drilled at Kliyul. After that, I think people should keep their eyes open for perhaps acquisitions, whether at the project or corporate front. And then obviously looking to gear up in the spring to get back to RDP and Kliyul and just keep building, keep growing, and let's use this positive momentum behind us and just keep pushing forward. Again, the goal is to become BC's leading copper exploration company by hook or by crook.
Fantastic. Now, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I really appreciate you taking this time out of your day to speak with me. I think it's such a great story when it comes to people, who you've got supporting you, the projects that you have. And I really hope that this interview gave any curious or current investors some information that helps them kind of gain confidence in the projects and their investments and encourage people to go and do their own research of the company. So I just want to thank you so much for your time and just reiterate that this interview was not paid. It's purely educational and informational, and I just wanted to share the story with the audience. So thank you so much, Blaine.
Thanks, Rebecca. Appreciate it. Thank you.